Yeah, but I mean, at the end of the day, you have to grade stuff. You have to grade something, right? So it's just a matter of what you're setting up to grade.
So thank you all for coming. Our next speaker is Sarah Hinkel, who is a student at Grace College. For her senior thesis, she's working with Dr. Chris Barlow on studying the game Hinkel on Wall Street.
All right, good morning. So last semester I worked on an independent study with Dr. Farwell and looked at the game Panic on Wall Street. So just a little bit about this game. It is set in the 1920s stock market. So you have properties and you try to bid on them and get the properties that get the highest return on investment. So the players are divided into two groups, the managers and the investors. And the managers manage the properties or the stocks, and the investors negotiate prices to try to get the lowest price but also the highest return. And so after the negotiation phase is done, you roll the dice and then you move the indicator levels up or down. And I've got the little board to show you. So you can move it up or down depending on the roll of dice. If the indicator level lands on a positive number, like 30, then the investor will get $30 back. Well, actually it's $30,000, but for sake of simplicity, we'll say 30. But then also for a high risk one, a red or a yellow, you could get a negative number, and then the investor would end up having to pay the bank $20 or $10. So you want to make money, so that's what we're trying to focus on. After the investors get the money from whatever the dice rolled, they pay the managers whatever they agreed upon on the tiles that are written up there. And then the managers pay the bank $10 per property that they have. And then at the end, the bank auctions off properties for the managers to buy more and to sell more in the next round. And then you repeat this for 5 total rounds. And each round signifies 1 month in the stock market. So we look at this game from 2 different perspectives. One is the investor's perspective, and we wanted to know what value the investor should offer the manager given a particular state of the game. And also from the manager's perspective, we wanted to know how much a particular property is worth in an auction with end rounds left, because you don't want to pay more for a property than what it's worth or what you can expect to get back on that. Starting off with the investor's perspective, we calculated the cumulative expected value of their properties over the course of 5 rounds at each risk level. And then we also use this to calculate the return on the investment based on the investment amounts. And the investment amounts are in increments of $5 or $5,000. And this return on investment is based on the expected value at each indicator level for 1 round. So the properties are divided into 4 risk levels. The blue is the safest, which you have first, and then green is is more risky but still safe, and then yellow is fairly risky, and then red is the riskiest. So starting off with the safest property, you can see that blue is just pretty steady and increasing throughout the game for how much it's worth. And then green is a little broader range throughout the game for how much it's worth. Yellow is pretty similar to green. There is a hole in the graph at 4 rounds because the dice cannot. The option of the 30 indicator level is not available at that time because of the roll of the dice. And then the red expected value is pretty steady too, but they all converge to a similar location with 4 rounds left. So we use that value to calculate the return on investment for the investor, and we did this by taking the expected value and subtracting the investment amount. So the investment amount is on the left column, and we start with 5 and go into 40. And then across the top is the indicator level that is on the board. So at the start of the game, it starts at the first 30, and the investor would like to invest something that will, the lowest amount that will get them the highest return. So obviously they'd want to invest $5 because they get the highest amount from that. But the manager won't like that because they won't make any money. So you have to keep that in mind. And so to show what would be a good equilibrium perspective or price, we mark that, and the red font marks the investment that favors the investor, and the asterisk mark the investment that the manager would like. And the reason why they're a little different sometimes is because of rounding reasons, because an investment would favor the manager if we round up to an increment of 5, and then the investor would favor the investor if we round it down to an increment of 5. So if you see, like, starting at to start the game, you would expect to make about $11.67 with an investment of 15. And then the underline in the table also marks the acceptable investment offers for the investor. So anything that's a positive number is anything that the investor would be okay with investing. And later on we'll talk about how much the managers will make, and so we'll think about their perspective in the negotiation. So green is similar to blue, except you can have a higher return on investment because it is a little risky, but it is also pretty safe. And yellow, it's very similar to green. You can have a higher return on investment. If you start the game, you can make about $6.67, which is not as high as a green, but it's pretty decent. And red is the riskiest, and it shows because just because it's risky doesn't mean that you can have a higher return. So not being risky and going for the red doesn't always pay off. So in summary, for the investor, if you're an investor in the game, I would suggest to invest the highlighted value that we have here on the table. And also, don't invest more than what a property is worth. Kind of seems like common sense, so we just have to be reminded of that sometimes. Going on to the manager's perspective, keep in mind that at the end of each round, the managers pay the bank $10 or $10,000 per property that they have. And we calculate expected profit, and we use this to see what the acceptable investment offers are. And we also look at the maximum bid that the manager should bid on at the company auction at the end of each round. So this table is it's pretty simple. It's like the investor's return on investment table. The profit is calculated just by taking the investment amount and subtracting $10 because that's how much the manager is making. So the manager would like to have an investment of at least $15 each time, to say at the minimum of $5. It's $5 back. And then the same placements are highlighted or have an asterisk next to them as the ROI, return on investment tables. So you can see which offers the manager will make money on and how much profit they will have based on what the investor finds favorable to. For the green properties, you can see that the managers can make a little bit more money than with the blue. For yellow, yellow is pretty similar to the green as that as well. And the red is pretty risky too. As you can see, if the indicator level is at the -20, then the investor might want to invest $5, but that'll yield a negative profit for the manager, even if the investor will make money. So that's a deal that the manager should not take. So that they offer that to you, don't take it. Okay, so we use this to calculate the maximum bid for each property for each color. So starting off the game with 5 rounds left, the blue properties are worth $40. And then by the end of the round, by the end of the game, there's one round left, the blues are worth between $0 and $10. So as the game goes on, you should be bidding less and less for the properties, not more and more. And then for green is actually worth the most compared to all the other properties at the beginning of the game. They're worth $60 compared to the other properties. They're worth about $30, $35. But then by the end of the game, they can also be worth between 0 and 20. So you just have to be careful with where the indicator falls at the specific time of the auction. And the yellow, you see there's also another hole at the 30 level, because that's not where, that space is not available at that time. So yellow is worth one of the least throughout the game. And red is worth not that much either, it's just worth a little bit more than yellow. So we took all of these, all the data from the max bid tables, and we put them into what we call the advantage charts. So it's just a visual representation of what we talked about, so you can see better how much properties are worth over the course of the game. And so the y-axis is the worth of it, max bid, and then the x-axis is actually the color. I couldn't get the chart to write the colors on the x-axis, so when you see numbers, 1 is blue, 2 is green, 3 is yellow, and 4 is red. So at the beginning of the game, with 5 rounds left, the green property is obviously worth the most with 60, and then blue and red are tied for second, and then the yellow just brings it up in the last, it's not worth very much. Then with 4 rounds left, you can see that green still is worth the most, and then blue and red are both at the bottom. The legend over on the side, it's organized by 1st through 7th placement. Usually we would organize it by these numbers on here, the indicator levels, the -20 all the way up to 70. But because they vary so much, there would be too many different symbols. So just label them the 1st through 7th placement. With three rounds left, you see green still is in the lead, but it also has a broader range. So it could green can be worth about 5, or it could be worth 60. So it's just it all depends on probability. There's a lot of probability in this game. And also, yellow has a broad range too, but it can be worth more. So yellow is becoming more, is increasing rather than the blue and the red. With 2 rounds left, the colors start to even out a little bit, with green and yellow competing for first, and then the red is bringing it down to one of the lowest values. And then with 1 round left at the end of the game, green and yellow are they're worth about the same, and then red is actually worth a little bit more than the blue. So what we can learn from this, that in an auction, the property values decrease over time. So for that reason, we like to buy more properties earlier, so you can accumulate more wealth on that over the course of the game, instead of buying a property with 2 rounds left and you can only get 1 round of investments on that. Also, I said this a little bit earlier, do not bid more than what the properties are worth. Sometimes just get caught up in the game and want to be competitive and forget about what it's worth. But I encourage you to just step aside and think about what it's actually worth. And you can actually apply this to the real life stock market, because that's what this game is modeled after. And when you think about the real life stock market, it's actually real money, not just fake money. So you can think about these principles to that too. So in conclusion, there is no direct formula to win Panic on Wall Street. sometimes we think about that. We want everything to be a direct formula because we like math. We're all here at a math conference. But just like in life, you can't just plug in numbers. You have to think about the past and the future and the roll of the dice. But through this analysis, we can see that the green properties will yield the highest expected return on investment. And also, the yellow properties also have, and the green properties have a higher probability of earning a profit of $15 or more. Yes, and I would like to acknowledge my advisor, Dr. Farwell, again, for helping me with this, this project for this year. Thank you.
Any questions for our speaker? I have one. So you talked about the missing data in round 4. Is that a byproduct of how the dice are rolled, or is that specifically a rule in the game that says you just can't use the space?
Well, it's just how the dice are rolled. Like,
Okay.
For the yellow, just the numbers on the dice. You can have, I forgot the specific numbers, but it's like +2 or +4, and you can't have that number.
Gotcha.
Yes.
I'm just curious about the game itself since I've never heard of it. How long does it take to play?
It goes by pretty quickly. I mean, each negotiation phase is 2 minutes, so it takes at least 10 minutes because it's 5 rounds. But it could be about half hour. It depends on how long it takes to bid and have auctions.
So the auctions and the negotiation are live. It's not like a round. It's
Oh yeah, it's just live. It's like,
Okay.
it's not like Monopoly where you go around
Okay.
in a turn. Yeah.
all right. Let's thank our speaker again. Next talk will be at 11:30.